Hey guys, Dr. Plague here. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. I'm reading an excerpt from Sleeping to be Awake, A Long Wait, from a friend of mine, Christopher Couger. If you like what you hear tonight, you should definitely go check his book out on Amazon. He's a talented writer who really doesn't get enough recognition. So, without further ado, let's get started. I've always been a fan of wild adventures, but this one, I assure you, wasn't the one I wanted. Throughout all my writing, you'll find what's left of the person who I used to be. 2 weeks ago, on the night of my birthday, after a crazy night, I figured I would relax a bit. I threw myself on my futon and decided to start listening to some of the tracks I just made. I listened to one track that got me thinking. I thought maybe the track was a dream I couldn't reach. Some of the lyrics made me a little unsure. They went like this. I woke up one night in a daze crazed with fear, and I noticed these wires were attached to my ears. I noticed a man in a lab suit with instruments. They told me to lie down and concentrate again, and that's when I awoke once more to find myself in the bedroom, lying on the floor. As I listened, I started to remember the dream I'd had the night before. The problem was, it seemed more real than a dream. I thought maybe someone had a theory about this type of thing. So I went on a forum and published my dream for the public to view, and maybe to receive some comments to see if anyone else had had a similar dream. That's when it started to get weird. About a week later, I had received a comment that kinda scared me. The poster was anonymous, but his comment was, "The answer you seek is not the one you want." "You got my attention. I want to know what you know," I responded immediately. An hour later, I got another response from the same person. "What you're referring to in your dream was an experiment done on certain people in which they are introduced into a coma-like state where they relive the life according to what they are programmed. They throw obstacles at you to see if you can accomplish their task. Anyone who completes everything and gets to the age where they were subject to the test will become." That's when the post ended. I began responding, asking what they became. I waited 4 weeks, and with no response, I began to get a little scared. I started researching information that was being told to me, but every site with info on it was either shut down or the page was deleted. So I assumed I was fucked, but then it happened. I fell asleep that night and had the same dream, but woke to the men in lab suits speaking, and what I heard was scary and unnerving. "He's catching on. There's a problem. Someone's hacking in." Then I woke up, but I wasn't in my room anymore. I was in a psychiatric ward. I asked one of the staff members why I was here. "Every night with you." "All right, look, this is the last time. Your parents were murdered, and the killer was never caught, and you insisted it was men in lab coats. Now, good night." I began to panic, not knowing what the hell was happening here. I took a deep breath and let go of it slowly, thinking about how I could make sense of all this. I sat on the cold plastic bedding on the twin-sized bed in the dark, lonely room. Then I thought, what if I fell asleep? Would I wake up to my known reality? So I began to lie down and started to drift off into a drowsy state. I was asleep and sure of it, and saw once again the men in the lab coats, but something strange was happening. I didn't hear any noises. When I woke again, I was greeted by their voice, "Welcome back." I sighed with relief and said, "Thank God." I felt a sense of relief knowing one voice was assurance enough to let me know everything was going to be okay. Yet I'm not sure if this is completely true due to the recent incident that has caused great confusion this far in. Am I ready for what's next? Or was this all a big dream from my big birthday party with all the shit I'd taken and done that night? So I pondered the thought, this may be a drug-induced dream, making it lucid. Who knows? I looked around, shocked that my idea had worked. I looked towards the right and saw my mom in the doorway of my bedroom. "How long have I been out for?" I asked. She looked towards me and laughed as if I was telling a joke. "Well, you went to bed around 11 o'clock last night and kept mumbling something about a test. I assumed it was about school, but then you started mentioning men in lab coats. I thought it was a crazy dream. So I went to my bed and woke up around 5 a.m. and you were screaming. I went in and suddenly you stopped. It's 6 now, so about 5 hours, honey. I just wanted to know if you were okay." I looked at her and laughed, and it sounded like something you'd hear in a horror movie. Yeah, Mom, just had a bad nightmare. I'm sure I'm fine. Everyone has one now and then. She shrugged her shoulders and replied, Well, okay. If you need to talk, I'm here, sweetie. Now get ready for school. I got up, looking around as if to let myself know that everything was okay. It was only a dream. I walked over to the dresser to get my Beatles t-shirt and some American Eagle jeans, the ones that are ripped on the knees. I couldn't find my Beatles t-shirt and thought maybe it wasn't a dream since I hadn't worn it yet, because it was brand new, and I'd just put it away yesterday. So I ran downstairs to ask Mom, Do you know where my Beatles t-shirt is? She looked at me like I was crazy. Beatles t-shirt? When did you get it? Because I don't remember you getting one. I had a confused look on my face, thinking that maybe I was still asleep, or maybe she just didn't remember getting it with me. We were at Spencer's, and it was a Beatles Revolver album cover t-shirt. You don't just forget buying that. Oh, I guess I was thinking of something from the dream or something, I said. She looked at me and shook her head and went back to drinking a cup of tea she just made. I ran back upstairs and grabbed my John Lennon NYC t-shirt and walked to the shower. I turned the faucet handle and it was new looking, and I began to think, when did we get this? I brushed it off, saying to myself, if I keep questioning things, I won't have a reality anymore. So I just thought, I'll be fine. I just need to see one of my friends to feel reassured. I made it down to the bus stop 10 minutes early, and just as I walked over, I saw one of my friends, Justin Regagni. I sped over to him, hoping maybe I could talk to him about all of this. After all, he's the go-to guy for these types of problems. Justin, I was wondering, after our GED class today, you think maybe we could chill? He looked at me, concerned, and said, Sure, man, what's going on? I paused, trying to think of a reasonable explanation to tell him, but I couldn't at that point in time. Well, this is going to sound a bit strange, but I've been having these weird experiences and dreams where I'm in a laboratory and these men in lab coats are watching me from behind an enclosed room with a huge window. And the last dream I had, one of those men said, He's not ready, someone's hacking in. Justin looked at me like he had seen a ghost. Well, man, I know you think these are dreams, but, well, there's more behind it than a simple dream. Look, we can't talk about this in public, so after class, we'll meet at my house, okay? I looked at him, worried about the statement he'd just made, and glanced down for a minute, thinking about the commenter on the forum that day, when he said it was more than a dream as well. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty nervous by what you just said. He looked at me with a stern face. You're right to feel that way. The bus started rolling down the hill, and I began to pick up my backpack when I noticed this weird shining light coming from inside the bus. The light itself was very odd. It wasn't too bright. It was pretty dim, actually. Just then, the bus pulled up, and the light was gone, so I got in and sat in the back. I started to begin to feel a bit tired, so I rested my head on the cold metal in between the seat and the interior of the bus. I began to start dozing off, and that's when it happened. Something I had been dreading since this all started. I started feeling what I had got when I had first experienced with the psychiatric ward. I was awake for the first time, and yet I still felt this feeling. When I awoke, I knew what was going on for a second. It's happening again, and I know where I am. Again, I'm here. I look around at the place I've grown to be familiar with, but not happy to be in. This time around was very different. There were no men in lab coats, just me lying on the cold, hard metal tray that they would normally use for morgues. I had these wires attached to me still, so I began to remove them. As I removed the wires, I noticed that everything began to get brighter, as if the wires were like a shield hiding the true essence of the room that I had become accustomed to. I got up to start looking around when a strange voice came over the speaker somewhere in the room. Welcome, I've been waiting for you. Look, we don't have much time before they get back and find what I did. I looked around kind of confused and responded, Well, I guess I don't have a choice at this point. Say what you need to say. My heart started racing, not knowing what the hell to expect this time. Well, look, You have, for the past 6 years, been under a psychoactive sedative drug that more or less puts you into a controllable coma state, where they have you go through the obstacles they want you to. Once you complete them, you will be one of... Fuck. I gotta go. We'll speak more another time. I was overcome with fear at the notion that the voice seemed as if they were about to be in a whole mess of trouble. Well, hello there. Why aren't you on the table? Look, I don't know who the fuck you are, or why I keep coming back to the same place every fucking time I sleep. I just want some fucking answers, and why the fuck I've been here for 6 years of my life. That's all I want to know. I want to go back to living a normal life, and not this fucked up one you guys are creating for me. The voice laughed in a demeaning way. Don't you remember? You wanted this, and made this all possible. Without you, this place wouldn't be what it is today. My eyes lit up in horror, thinking on what was just told to me. Look, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about, but fuck this, I'm done with this shit. I glanced over towards the enclosed room, only to find a reflection of myself, and as I looked at the reflection, I noticed I wasn't 19 anymore. I was at least in my 40s. Well, I'm sorry to say, there's no going back. You're the last of the 10 people, but I digress. I'll make it simple for you. You're not leaving this place until you finish. I began to get furious, and that's when 4 men came in, all in hazmat suits. I looked at them, knowing what my fate was. You can't do this to me forever. I will get out of here, you son of a bitch. Just as I finished that sentence, that's when the man grabbed me, and all I remember was a sharp pain in my neck as they stuck me with a needle. I began to get woozy, then I eventually passed out. That's when I started again. This time around, I didn't feel right. Something was wrong. Knowing what would happen would be a much-needed blessing at this time. I hope I get that soon, or I'm not sure I'll ever be okay. This time, I hope I get needs what to be done, and to be finished, and yet I'm scared to know what it is. What is real and what is truth and answers and all this bullshit. I woke up to the sound of chimes. I looked towards the right and noticed a church with a bell ringing, indicating it was time for mass. I got up, but I wasn't in my mom's house. I was in my apartment, the one I rented when I was 18. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen this time. I walked around my room and seemed as if I'd just moved in. I remembered about this time when I was moving in, Justin was going to come by and visit, so I waited for him to open the door and surprise me. He was always the type of guy to surprise me, to make me happy. Just as I was thinking about that, I realized I had a black suit on, as if I had just come from a funeral or was going to one. Right then, I received a call. "Chris, where are you?" I was confused. Why? What's wrong? There was a pause on the phone, like I had just disrespected the person on the other end. Well, I figure since you're supposed to be Justin's friend, you'd be here after what happened. I sat down in terror, hoping she wasn't saying what I thought she was saying. "Look, I'm not feeling right today. Can you remind me what's happened?" She sighed slowly, as if what she was saying was gonna crush her heart. "Don't you remember anything? Justin died in a car crash. You were in the crash, but you survived with minor damage. And Justin, well, this is hard to say." I looked around in sorrow, knowing what was going to be told to me, and responded, "Please tell me what I need to know." I started to cry, heard her crying softly on the other end of the phone. "He was driving. You guys were drunk or high, and he crashed into a light post. His seatbelt held him, but his head went right through the windshield and decapitated him." All I heard after that was her crying, severely, and I couldn't figure out a way to comfort her. I started going into shock after hearing all of this. This was way too much for me to handle with everything I'd been going through. "Look, everything's gonna be okay. We'll get through this. Justin was a great person, and I have to man up and take the blame for all of this. I shouldn't have let him drive, and now life is worthless. I chose drugs over a friend. I don't deserve to live with that, not after what I've done." There was a silent pause, and then she hung up. The fact that I'm being thrown into all these situations was hard enough, but to lose a lifelong friend due to stupidity is one thing I cannot handle. I looked around once more, and noticed a letter unopened from Justin. I sat there for a minute, just looking at the name on the letter, thinking back on all the shit we had together, and now all I'm left with is memories of past paradise. So I sat and began to wonder why, if there was a God, why would they make someone go through these horrible experiences? Did God create us because there was a flaw in him and he couldn't feel emotion? So he created us so he could try to learn emotions? Again, I'm sitting here rambling to myself, nothing but unanswerable questions that I may never find out. The fact of even knowing I lost someone, or more or less everything in the blink of an eye, and I don't even know what, why, or who is doing this, but I will find out, and when I do, they'll pay for the death of my friend. Even if they just fabricated it, the fact that I can still feel the emotions I'm going through, which, by the way, would be as if you saw your friend get shot and did nothing to stop when you could. You may never know this feeling, and I hope you never do. This feeling is the darkest feeling you could ever think of, and I would wish it on no person, not even my worst enemy. I kept perfectly still, thinking about everything that just seemed to happen for no reason at all. Looking down from the letter, I noticed that there was a broken picture with a little bit of blood on it. Someone, it looked like, had punched it out of rage. I looked at the photo and realized it was me and Justin back in Haver Middle School, and a strange sense of relief with a little bit of depression came over me, as if to say, soon this will be done, and you'll see the people who have caused you this pain. To an equal extent, I felt the depression, because how do I know they didn't fabricate this event? I mean, my whole look on reality at this point is diminishing to where I may never know what is real or not again. As I began to look at the letter, I realized this may be the one message left to me to help me out, and I damn sure I'm not going to stop fighting this battle. I sighed in a sort of nostalgic manner, recalling all the crazy shit me and Justin went through, and now, well, now I'm left with just the reminiscence of yesterday and nothing good in my eyes to look forward to. I rubbed my fingers over the name on the card, as if to say my last and final goodbye, not knowing what the future holds in store for me next. I slid my finger under the back flap of the envelope. I began opening the letter. I was hoping for some information to help me out of this mess. Instead, I got this confusing message. When you wake up, go towards the hall near the room with the big open window. Right then and there, I should be working on a computer. I won't have much time before they realize I have done this, but please trust me and go there. I'll be waiting. I kept reading the letter over and over again to see if I can get any ideas. I mean, was he speaking of a video game or my dreams? I wasn't too sure, so I said, well, I don't have a video console, so I can in my mind mean only one thing, the dream. So, as I lay down on my bed, letter in hand, and a lot of things began going through my mind. Why was I the one going through all of this, and not someone else? Do I also have to wonder what they meant by, I am the reason this is all possible? So many questions, and not many answers for them. That's when I decided it would be best if maybe I just laid down and tried to go through what I had been, hoping maybe, just maybe, I might be able to stop all of this finally. I began to feel drowsy with the notion of hoping to see friends once again. Laying down, I started drifting more and more off into REM mode. I felt as if I had taken 20 Xanax bars and 3 80-milligram Oxycontins and snorted 4 huge rails of Coke all at once. That's when I began to start becoming more apparent that this was an inductive state of consciousness. Starting to drift off, I felt as if there would be an answer, and though I may be parted, there is still a chance I can finally let it be. That's the song that kept playing in my head, Let It Be, but I felt it was the wrong song to be stuck in my head. I felt as if the song should have been, Happiness is a Warm Gun, since I felt encouraged from the emotions that I had at the time, beginning to drift off into the unknown land I have been going to for a long time. To be honest, it has felt like years when it's probably been nothing but a couple of weeks, months. Shit, I'm not even sure what the fuck to think anymore. I woke up in the lab once again, remembering what was written and left for me. I just wanted answers, so I began remembering the letter and the message and starting walking out of the lab. Surprisingly, no men in lab coats this time. As I exited the room, I noticed the room Justin was referring to, so I proceeded to the room with caution. When I had gotten to the door, I saw a couple of weird-looking laptops. I looked to the right in the window and saw Justin on the computer and proceeded to walk in. I was very nervous, for the fact I did not know what I was getting myself into. I walked in a cautious state, thinking there's maybe something that I'd feared from the beginning. The same question I kept repeating to myself. Do I want to know what reality is anymore? So far, the entire journey has been a clusterfuck of disaster, with a sprinkle of chaos and a dash of torment on my soon-to-be rested soul. Opening the door with the confidence that I'd be okay at the end, I held my breath and prepared for the worst. As soon as I walked in, I saw Justin and right away said, "Okay, you said you didn't have much time. What's the plan, and what the hell is going on?" A dead silence swept the room. "Well, for one, I'm not exactly who you think I am. Look, I'm going to be brief. My name is Michael Nurmak. I'm an intelligence agent for the company. Before I go any further, though, I'm going to explain a little. You are the creator of this place, and I was told, as was everybody, we were not under any circumstances to help you, nor resuscitate you back to life. The state of consciousness, your mission you set for yourself, was to see if people could relive events of their life, but with minor adjustments. The problem was that the people who took control after you went under decided that the idea wasn't what they wanted, so instead they developed a new idea, one where the subject would relive their life, but with major obstacles such as friends dying and other such things, to see if you could cope with the obstacles. And anyone who completed the task to the controller's liking was assigned a position in the New World Army. Look, that's all I can say before we get caught. Just know that these dreams, the one person who seemed to be a bit weirder than usual, is me, especially if they know that you're thinking about it." "Okay, alright, so what should I do now?" I asked. "Just go with the flow." "What does that even mean?" "Look, I can't explain any further. Just go back into the room you were in and lie down. Go back in it. It'll all be over soon." I looked in horror, thinking, why the fuck would I go back in there? Well, some questions are better left unasked. I proceeded back into the room. "Okay, now lie down and I'll put you under." "Okay, then what?" He was silent. Then I heard a faint whisper say, "It's almost over." Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you liked what you heard, then please consider going to Amazon and ordering the writer's work. That's Christoper Smoked Cougar. Or you can always order one of my books on Amazon too. I won't stop you. Anyway, I hope you'll join us for part 2, and have a